All right. Well, now that the selfie has been taken, good evening, everyone. If everyone can begin finding their seats. We have a bit of a long program tonight. It's all super entertaining, but we will be getting started soon. Thank you. I love this. We'll start by consensus. We'll start when enough people are banging their water glasses. Democracy, that's what we're here for tonight. All right, I think we have enough conversations that are wrapping up that I've got the green light to start. Well, good evening. Welcome to the 51st National Press Club Journalism Awards dinner. My name is Emily Wilkins, and I have the honor to be the 117th president of the National Press Club. And I'm also a correspondent for the CNBC Washington, D.C. Bureau, and a special shout out to my bosses for letting me sneak out of work early tonight. Tonight, you will hear and see some of the best in our profession, outstanding work by journalists across the country that has changed lives. So many winners have joined us here tonight. They are excellent reporters who have uncovered remarkable stories, and their work deserves our recognition. And tonight, we will get the chance to hear from almost all of them, which I'm very excited about. Before we get the night underway, I want to be sure to thank our corporate members, many of who I see in the room tonight. Bloomberg Industry, Bloomberg News, Gray TV, and Spectrum News, thank you so much for your support. It makes our community of journalists even stronger. Our first order of business tonight is the President's Award, and this one's important enough that we're going to get right to it even before y'all eat. Trust me, you want this one to be first. In recent years, the award has been used to recognize and to draw attention to the case of a reporter or a journalist who is paying, or has paid, far too high a price for their work, and to call for action and justice. Last year, my colleague Eileen O'Reilly gave the award to Las Vegas Review-Journal investigative reporter Jeff German. Now, Jeff, as many of you remember, was murdered outside of his home by a local politician who Jeff was covering. And I bring that up tonight because just hours ago, a jury found him guilty of murder. And it is really, I think, a reminder that even with everything that journalists face in our country right now, we can at least rest assured that we still have the justice system behind us and that we still have them upholding the freedom of the press. And of course, the story is not all of a negative one because the award was shared with Washington Post reporter Lizzie Johnson, and she picked up and she completed some of Jeff's work. That investigation did not die. It was completed. The truth got out there, and it shows that when we come together as a community of journalists, we will find the truth, we will bring transparency, we will bring light into the darkness, and that we collectively together are stronger than any one of us. So this year, when I was asked about the President's Award, the choice was obvious, kind of unfortunately so, but I decided to honor Alsu Kurmasheva with the award. She is a journalist and an editor with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. She's an American citizen, she's a wife, she's a mother of two, and she was wrongfully detained while visiting her mother in Russia. For 10 months, Alsu was held in subpar conditions on bogus charges. Bogus because the only thing she had done is journalism, and journalism is not a crime. Russia had not arrested an American journalist since the Cold War, but then they arrested Evan Gershkovich and then Alsu shortly thereafter. Soon after Alsu's capture, the National Press Club began to work with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty on how to bring Alsu home. Part of this was calling on our own government to declare Alsu as wrongfully detained, something they did in less than 2 weeks for Evan, but took months and months and months for Alsu, and this isn't just some sort of perfunctory title. This is a real thing that really unlocks certain benefits and aid and assistance for the families, and I think there's still a lot of questions as to why our government did not do that sooner. And during this time, I got to meet Alsu's family. Her husband, Pavel Butern, a successful journalist in his own right, was nothing short of inspiring in the fight he led to bring his wife home. Pavel just has this incredible way of being so composed and yet so determined and so passionate. It was not easy for him. There were many meetings he was in, there were many discussions that he had that I think anyone in this room would have found frustrating to be a part of if you were going through what he was going through. Yet Pavel never faltered in his persistence to get Alsu her freedom. And their daughters, Bibi and Miriam. They left their home in Prague, traveled to the US multiple times, and met with high-level officials and politicians right alongside their dad. The first time I met Bibi and Miriam, I was struck by their intelligence and their poise, how they were able to advocate for their mom and hold their own in these high-level meetings while living an absolute nightmare. There's really only, Bibi, I shouldn't mention this, she made multiple appearances on news programs alongside her dad, and when Jake Tapper told her to look into the camera and directly address Russia's leaders, she didn't flinch. She looked directly into the camera and told Putin to let her mom go. There is really only one way to describe Bibi and Miriam. They are absolute badasses, and after meeting their parents, I can totally see why. For months, we worked to bring Alsu home, wearing her pins, tweeting about her, issuing statements every step of the way along her case, and getting 20-some organizations to sign a letter to President Biden, calling on him to ask his State Department what they were doing to help Alsu. And then, at the start of the month, the thing we'd all been waiting for and working for and praying for happened. Alsu was freed. She was reunited with her family. She has gotten to go home to Prague, but tonight, she joins us in person to accept the President's Award. I am going to give this microphone to Alsu in just a second, but before we do have a video from Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty that they put together for this, so I believe we are going to play that first.
My sister and I both sit in these meetings, and it's just crazy that we have to go through this. I also wanted to say that my mother has been working at RFERL for 25 years, and we see that, and we're so inspired by her, and it's so unfair that she has really dedicated her life to her work, and now she's being punished for something that she didn't even do.
And Putin should release Evan and Alsu immediately. Just we're doing everything we can.
This is the first photo of 3 of the freed Americans in Turkey today.
Tonight, I'm here to talk about the power of words. Words that describe atrocities, the human condition, share stories and emotions, and even sometimes provoke close-minded leaders to prosecute those who share words of truth. The National Press Club is built upon the power of words. In Russia, they view words as threats to their power. They want to silence journalists, lock us away, never to use certain words again. Here in the United States, we celebrate freedom of speech, freedom of the press. Tonight, we celebrate words like freedom. It's hard to believe that less than a month ago, I was in a primitive Russian prison, deprived of even the most basic things. I remember one of those freezing winter days, just another endless, meaningless day in prison in Kazan, when my lawyer told me how the National Press Club was fighting for my release. The details were sparse, any information from the outside world was heavily censored, and we had to be cautious. But deep in my heart, in mind, I knew I was free. I was innocent. I was wrongfully detained, targeted for being an American journalist and doing my job well. Even though I held on to that belief every minute of my imprisonment, the harsh conditions, constant humiliation and intimidation, and fear of losing my sanity sometimes took over. But that day was different. That day I returned to my tiny cell with unbearable conditions. I covered the frozen window with a second blanket. The temperature outside was 30 below zero, and the heating had been broken for 2 days. I wanted to make a note in my diary, but the pen was frozen solid. Time had stopped. The hours passed, but time refused to move with them. I put on the last thick hoodie I had that day and lay down on my prison bed. My cellmate and I talked about what it would feel like to freeze to death. But then I closed my eyes and I allowed myself to hope. In my mind, I dreamed of this moment, of being here with you. We were smiling, we were hugging each other. Some of us were emotional, but most importantly, we were together. Even during these dark times, I never felt alone, because I knew I am part of a global community of journalists. I am part of you. I felt your support and it kept me going. And now here we are. We made it. We are together in this room. I'd like to thank the National Press Club for the enormous amount of support you showed my family during my imprisonment and the vital work you did to advocate for my release. Dear Emily and Bill and Eileen, you are the champions. I will never forget your personal involvement in my case. Any journalist who is arrested for doing their job is detained wrongfully. We should all support Emily's and Bill's efforts to make sure all American journalists receive the wrongfully detained designation immediately after detention. Journalism is never a crime, and any journalist arrested for doing their job is by definition detained wrongfully. I thank my fellow journalists and colleagues at RFERL for being my biggest supporters from day one. My story was told in many languages for audiences in many countries. Everywhere they work, RFERL journalists do their jobs at great risk, living and working in some of the most difficult and dangerous places imaginable. Our newsroom kept my story in the news and made sure the world knew what was happening to me. RFERL's president, Steve Kapus, and the president before him, Jeff Gedmin, worked tirelessly with Diane Zeleny and her external affairs team to bring me home. Thank you. They played a key role in getting support from President Biden, Vice President Harris, and members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, to back me and other detained Americans abroad. I'm really grateful for the incredible support I've received from the press freedom community, including the Committee to Protect Journalists, Reporters Without Borders, and the Foley Foundation, and many more. Of course, I also owe a huge debt of gratitude to you, my fellow journalists. The solidarity I have felt from my peers means the world to me. I'd like to especially thank the team at the Wall Street Journal and personally Paul Beckett, Paul Beckett not only fought for Evan's case, release day and night, but did everything he could to keep my case front and center as well. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to the Washington Post Press Freedom Partnership, whose full-page newspaper ads raised awareness about my case, as well as the fates of other imprisoned journalists abroad. Finally, I want to thank another amazing professional, the love of my life, my husband, Pavel. And my two daughters, Bibi and Miriam. As many of you saw on TV screens during my detention, they fought for me night and day, and I love them very much. Their efforts to reunite our family leave me speechless. Pavel and I used to covering the stories, and now we are the story. And Miriam and Bibi have grown up so much in the past year, and we will never get back the year we missed. No other families should have to go through what we did. Amen. And finally, I want to admit that the nights like tonight are bittersweet, because there are still journalists locked up across the world. I think constantly of three of my RFERL colleagues. Ihar and Andrei are imprisoned in Belarus. Ihar has been held incommunicado since February 2023, and Vlad is in Russia-controlled Crimea. Vlad hasn't seen his wife, Katerina, or younger daughter, Stefania, in more than 3 years. He's been tortured with electric shocks and suffers every day for the crime of being a brave and award-winning journalist. But Vlad and the others are not alone. And everyone here should know, you are not alone. We are not alone. We are part of a global community that comes together to protect the values of free expression. Thank you.
To stop. That was awesome. Also, I know I've said it before that the entire community for the National Press Club did everything they could to support you while you were captured and detained. We will do everything that we can now that you are free and making the transition back to your next chapter. But I did want to make it official. This is your temporary, because a real one will be coming soon, card for the National Press Club to be a member. You will always have a home here. You will always have a community here.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
This is precious. This is I will. I'm so happy to be here, so happy to be one of us, one of you, and I'll join the fight. We have a lot to do. Thank you.
All right, dinner's served. And of course, thank you again to Alsu and to everyone who was a part of the initiative. I know many, many, many in the room tonight were hugely supportive, and just a huge thank you. One of the things I've kind of said is that we all can do more for the journalism profession when we work together, and I think this is an excellent example of that. And of course, we look forward to all of you joining in the fight as we continue to work for press freedom. And we will be back with the rest of our program after dinner. was going to start, but you guys took care of that. All right, excellent. Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed an absolutely delicious dinner. A huge round of applause, of course, to our amazing wait staff this evening, as well as our chefs and our cooks and our bartenders. Before we get started, I would like to thank our silver sponsors, Ben Dorr Communications, National Public Radio, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. We very much appreciate the support and commitment to responsible journalism. I'm grateful to see so many familiar faces in this room, and I really appreciate everyone who could attend this evening. I realize this time of year can be difficult. It's August, folks are on vacation, so we just want to acknowledge that there are a few winners who could not be with us tonight, but we know they are with us in spirit. And with that, let's get started. Our first category is the National Press Club's Arthur E. Rouse Award for Excellence in Examining the News Media, which is sponsored by Mr. Rouse, a longtime journalist for U.S. News and World Report. We know that he is watching from home tonight, and we want to thank him and his family for their ongoing support for this award. The award honors excellent reporting that examines the vital role and responsibility of the news media in a democracy. The award is given in two categories. We have broadcast and we have print, and we'll begin with broadcast. The winners are Anna Arayna, Oz Woloshin, and their colleagues at Kaleidoscope for Silence, the radio murders. The podcast shines a light on the murders of several Haitian radio broadcasters in Miami's Little Haiti, who had advocated for democracy in their native country. Silenced does an excellent job of raising questions about the police's failure to identify the masterminds behind the killings. It also makes a compelling case that journalists who were killed for exercising their First Amendment rights on behalf of fellow Haitians who were struggling to assert their freedom in a nation with a long and brutal history of political repression. Accepting the award is Jeremy Bigwood, who provided research assistance on the series. Jeremy?
On behalf of Kaleidoscope, Anna Rana, and Oz Voloshin, who cannot be here today, thank you for this award for the podcast series Silenced, The Radio Murders. This 8-episode series honors 3 Haitian journalists who were murdered in Little Haiti, Miami in the 1990s. Their deaths were initially investigated by Anna Rana about 30 years ago when she worked at the Committee to Protect Journalists, with the hope that a federal investigation would follow. It didn't. The recent Kaleidoscope investigation provides a much more detailed and much more context, but also leaves the listener with the feeling that a federal investigation of these deaths is still needed, and that the lessons have not been learned. We have been working to get the authorities interested in reopening these cases. Thank you. Very good. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. The winners in print or online category are Liam Scott, Sakab ul Islam, Jessica Jarrett, and their colleagues at Voice of America for The Last of the Watchdogs. The police raid of a small-town newspaper in Marion, Kansas last summer captured the attention of media organizations worldwide. But after many journalism organizations had moved on, Voice of America carried out a fundamental tenet of our industry, on-the-ground storytelling. VOA, give it up. VOA journalists immersed themselves in the town to better understand how central the Marion County record is to the community it covers, the threats to its existence from people in power, and the resilience of fellow journalists who continue to do critical work. The result of those efforts is an impressive package of text and video stories that capture 2 concurrent challenges facing American journalism today: attempts by authorities to intimidate community newspapers, and the expansion of news deserts that leave too many citizens less informed. And I believe we have a video, maybe? Maybe not? All right.
A free press matters. It's more than just a tagline here at VOA. It's an issue so important to VOA that we have a unique beat specialising in press freedom. The desk reports on cases of media rights being violated or repressed globally. And sometimes that coverage is closer to home, like when Kansas police raided a small-town newspaper last year. As news broke of that raid, our newest team member, Liam Scott, was quickly on the story, travelling with video journalist Saqib al-Islam to Marion, Kansas.
Last with the Watchdogs is a story with many layers. It's about a police raid and a legal battle, but it's also about the trauma and grief experienced by the newspaper's staffers and the vital role local newspapers play at a time when the U.S. news industry is struggling. While the raid was widely criticized as a violation of the First Amendment, the response and support from communities in Marion, Kansas, and around the country underscore the importance of local news.
Thank you to the Marion County Record for trusting us with telling your story. And on behalf of the Press Freedom Desk and VOA, thank you to the National Press Club for recognizing our coverage and sharing our core value that a free press matters.
Congratulations.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to Emily and to the Press Club for this incredible honor. I think we're all very fortunate at VOA that we have a network behind us who believes so importantly in the rights of media, that we have this unique beat. We have a full-time team covering press freedom. I get to lead this team every day, and while we're normally covering Al-Su's case, authoritarian cases, cases of our colleagues who are having their rights repressed globally, when there's an issue in the US, as unfortunately there are more often these days, we're there covering it. For this, I think the whole people at VOA, seeing Liam, he was our start intern a couple of years ago, and we hired him straight out of grad school. This was his first big assignment, and we were just very proud of him. We're very proud to see where he's going to go next.
Hi, everybody. Well, first I want to say how humbled I am to accept an award on the same night as Alsu Kurmasheva. We at VOA covered her case from her arrest until her release, and it's really amazing that she's finally released. Everyone at VOA is so happy that she's finally free. Thank you to the National Press Club. Thank you to my colleague Saqib al-Islam for braving the Kansas summer heat with me to cover this story. And thank you to my editor, Jessica Geriatric, who masterfully leads one of the only press freedom desks in the world. So thank you so much.
I think I have to say something as well. So 2024 marks the 15 years for me in Voice of America, and of course the mission statement. Our CEO, Amanda Bennett is here, and of course, Jessica, our press freedom editor, to inform, engage, and connect the people around the world in the sport of freedom and democracy. And of course, one more thing that entices me and encourages me to get out and work more hard and just like get the stories out there is at a free press matter, and that slide ends with every story that airs on Voice of America, and that's an honor for me. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody who's involved. Thank you, Jessica, for trusting me to do that story, and of course, Liam, of course, as we're talking, it was 110 degrees, and we were out there every day outside Marion Records trying to find people, because there was nobody out there except us. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Press Club, and thank you everybody who's here tonight. Thank you very much.
The next award is our Newsletter Journalism Award, and the winners are the PBS NewsHour team. Woo! Judges said, "Here's the Deal," which is the name of the newsletter, is exactly what a reader would want in a newsletter, explaining news they may have missed or passed over and distilling it in a way that explains why it matters to its audience. By taking the wild world of Washington politics and making it accessible, Here's the Deal performs the ultimate public service in making government make sense to its constituents. And accepting the award is someone who I consider my personal life goals, Lisa Desjardins, Capitol Hill correspondent at PBS NewsHour.
It is such an honor to be recognized in this room of extraordinary people and journalists. Now, at Here's the Deal and at PBS, we go for succinct and interesting, so I'm going to try to do this speech in 4 sentences. You guys can check me on if I can do it. First, I have to thank our incredible newsletter editor, Josh Barajas, who couldn't be here tonight, so I brought this face of him so that he could participate, and our table is celebrating, and this is all 1 sentence, so thank you very much for appreciating that. So Josh and I would like to thank WETA and our NewsHour executive producer, Sarah Just, for her support and all of their support. We have a very small and scrappy team, but thank you most of all to our digital leaders, Erica Hendring, Travis Dobb, this incredible table here. And I have to thank our community of readers. The newsletter is a community. We really believe we have the best audience and readers in the business. So thank you all very much. Thanks, Josh.
Rolling right along, the honorable mention for Newsletter Journalism Award is Matt Arcoa of NJ Advanced Media for What Makes Christie Run. We're going to take a break now from the awards and turn over to our scholarships. One of the highlights of being National Press Club president is presenting the winners of the club's scholarships awarded each year, AKA my future bosses. They're all up on the screen. These scholarships are made possible by the fundraising efforts of the National Press Club Journalism Institute, the nonprofit affiliate of the National Press Club. The Institute supports students and professional journalists through free and low-cost training, and these scholarships all in service to powering journalism in the public interest. Earlier this year, I had the honor and privilege of speaking with each of this year's scholarship winners and sharing the good news with them. So we're going to start off with Fanta Kaba of New York, New York, was recognized with the Richard G. Zimmerman Scholarship, totaling a one-time scholarship of $5,000 for high school seniors. Kaba will attend Princeton University in the fall, and she impressed the judges with the quality of her writing style and the stellar work samples. She already has demonstrated a solid grasp of the art of podcasting and has produced episodes for WNYC Radio and NPR's Code Switch covering public housing. Up next, we have Gabrielle Pippins of Plano, Texas, who is recognized with the Wes Vernon Broadcast Scholarship, also totaling as much as $2,000 over 4 years. $2,000, if you have students, let them know that we do this, have them apply. Over 4 years, the judges called Pippins a trailblazer for her dedication to journalism, her impressive volunteer work, and her excellent grades. She is a broadcast journalist student at Mayborn School of Journalism, University of North Texas, where she works as a sports anchor of the university's North Texas Television News and on a sports panel discussion program called Sports Zone. Up next, we have Kevin Palomino of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, who was recognized as the spring recipient of the Lewis Scholarship, which provides housing and a $4,000 stipend to support a student journalist of color interning at a news media outlet in Washington, because this city is expensive to intern in or live in. Palomino interned this spring at WZDC Telemundo 44 in Washington. A broadcast journalism student at the University of Oklahoma's Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication, he impressed the judges with a strong commitment to writing and video, as well as a clear and focused vision of what he wanted to do with his journalism internship. The summer recipient of the Lewis Scholarship is Sofia Andrade of Miami, Florida. She has accepted a summer internship with the Washington Post features team for the second consecutive year and has been kind enough to join us tonight. Sophia, can you please stand up and give us a minute to recognize you? Where is she? A 2024 graduate of Harvard University, she impressed the judges with her commitment to journalism, strong personal statement, and potential for continued professional growth. Alice Scott of Austin, Texas, was recognized with the Scholarship for Journalism Diversity, honoring Julie Hsu, totaling as much as $20,000 over 4 years. We are lucky enough to have Alice in attendance this evening, so let's give her a hand as well. Alice, can you stand up? Woo! This fall, Scott will attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, majoring in media and journalism. She impressed the judges with the high quality of her work as a reporter and the editor of her school's newspaper, The Shield. During her junior year, she recognized that the newspaper was underserving Spanish-speaking students, a large demographic at her school, and so she advocated that they start printing in English and Spanish. And actually, I remember reviewing your application, Alice, because I was on the judging team, and just, if you ever get the chance to do it, it is the most gratifying way that you can spend a Saturday morning, because you get to meet students like these and see all the cool stuff that they're doing. So just a little shout out for that. Ashley Korlak of Virginia was recognized with the Dennis and Shirley Fieldman Fellowship, totaling a one-time scholarship of $5,000 for graduate students. Korlak is a multi-platform editor for the Boston Globe, where she edits print and digital stories as a member of the copy desk. She is an incoming graduate student at the S.I. Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University and plans to continue working at the Globe. The judges were impressed with the quality of her editing and writing and her dedication to helping the next generation of journalists through mentorship. Thank you so much to all of our scholarship recipients, and a special thank you again to that team of judges who convene to review the scholarship applications each year. The program is really the pride and joy of the National Press Club and the National Press Club Journalism Institute. And again, we are just absolutely thrilled with the students that we have gotten to recognize this year. Please hire me one day. Thank you. Our next category is consumer journalism. The Consumer Journalism Awards recognize excellence in reporting on consumer topics, especially the work that prompted action by the community, the government, or an individual. The winners of the Consumer Journalism Award in print or online is a team from Bloomberg News for their piece, Bad Medicine, which explores how porous regulations in manufacturing shortcuts allow dangerous drugs to circulate around the world. Accepting the award is Anna Edney, national healthcare reporter at Bloomberg News. Anna?
I'm also here with my colleague, Riley Griffin. We wrote a story together that's part of this series. And I just want to say thank you to the National Press Club for this incredible honor. We're deeply grateful to be recognized for our work in shedding light on lax pharmaceutical and regulatory practices that are endangering lives around the world. This series wouldn't have been possible without the courage of those who spoke out, particularly those who lost loved ones, and we'd like to honor their memory this evening.
Anna and I focused on the efforts here in the United States, particularly by the Pentagon, to address unsafe drugs, efforts that were met with resistance by the Food and Drug Administration. That was tough at times. We want to thank our editors and our team leader, Cynthia Coons, who is here with us tonight, and our editors, Peter and Flynn, among many others who worked on this series, including our fellow reporters Kendall, Priyanka, Peter, Zachary, Swati, and Modu. Receiving this award in such a special place means so much to us all, so thank you.
Also, I am realizing that I might have made a small error because I know that I shouted out Matt Arco for his honorable mention for the newsletter, but Matt, we also have this lovely plaque up here for you if you would like to come up and receive it. I don't see anyone moving, so I'm going to put the plaque back down and go on to the next name. Actually, which is the honorable mention for the Consumer Journalism Award, is Jesse Colburn of Streets Blog for ghost tags inside New York City's black market for temporary license plates. So if Jesse is here, I believe we have a plaque for you. Jesse? I know. All right, well, if Jesse shows up, let him know what's up here. The Consumer Journalism Award in Broadcast goes to KXAN TV for TX Tag Troubles, a viewer-driven investigation. KXAN thoroughly investigated the complaints of hundreds of Texas drivers about persistent billing and customer service problems with the state's tollway operator and its contracted vendors. During KXAN's first 5 months of reporting, the Texas Department of Transportation began reaching out to viewers who had contacted the station to resolve their issues. In addition, state legislators renewed their approach to fixing future TX tag problems and passed a major consumer protection measure into law following the KXAN investigation. Judges were impressed by the fact that the investigation followed more than 24 reporters who covered multiple angles. They provided multimedia coverage across a variety of platforms. Accepting the award is Director of Investigations and Innovation at KXAN, Josh Hinkle. Josh?
I'm here with my colleagues, Digital Director Kate Winkle and Investigative Reporter Matt Grant, who were big parts of this project. In a state the size of Texas, there will likely always be tollway problems, and text tag is a big one that we've been covering for decades now, and we will continue to highlight those problems in our coverage, hold leaders accountable, and push for the help that Texans so desperately need. We want to thank the National Press Club for this honor, the amazing team that worked on this project, our station leadership for supporting journalism like this on the local and state level, and especially to the people who shared their stories, even through a lot of frustration and upset. It's definitely making a difference. Thank you.
I'm actually going to Texas this weekend, so relieved that someone is making sure that the tolls are proper there. Thank you, guys. Honorable mention for the Consumer Journalism Award in Broadcast is ABC News Live for Trashed, The Secret Life of Plastic Recycling. We do have the plaque up here if someone would like to come up and accept it. We can take your photo, it'll be great. Or you can continue eating dessert, that's also totally fine. Next is the Nell Minow Award for Cultural Criticism. The award, which is in its 3rd year, is named for club member Nell Minow, a longtime journalist and movie critic. The Nell Minow Award honors excellence in cultural criticism and recognizes original critiques addressing the state of society or unique commentary on the human experience as related to arts, media, politics, identity, and community. We are so lucky to have Nell with us this evening. Nell, if you can please stand and be recognized. The winner of this award is Christine Emba, the Washington Post for Men Are Lost. Here's a map out of the wilderness. I need a copy of that. Judges found Emba's writing to be conversation-driving, nuanced, and sensitive. Emba explained the issue while maintaining a point of view. Her writing also provided an empathetic approach to discuss masculinity and provided solutions. Accepting the award is Christine Emba. Christine?
I have to admit that I did not actually come prepared with a speech for tonight, so you'll have to bear with me. But first of all, I would say, again, thank you for the honor of this award and the honor of it being presented in a place like the National Press Club, where so many of my journalism idols have stood. I also want to thank Nell Minow, for whom this award is named. You know, when I wrote this piece, I did not expect that masculinity or differing versions thereof would remain so relevant, or perhaps become even more relevant in the electoral campaign. While not making a statement on either side, I would reiterate what I tried to communicate in my piece, which is simply that the sexes rise and fall together, and that gains for one are not zero-sum, that we each depend on each other. I don't think that I could have done this. In fact, I certainly couldn't have done this without the help of my colleagues at the Washington Post in the Post Opinion section, with my excellent editor, Amanda Katz. And I want to send a final thank you to the men, both named and unnamed, who spoke to me, who revealed their hopes, dreams, and fears for this piece, and the majority of whom, I would say all of whom, are hoping for a better and brighter masculinity in the future. Thank you.
The honorable mention for the Nell Minow Award for Cultural Criticism is Benjamin Ortiz of New Lines magazine for how crossing the Texas-Mexico border in the 1980s led to a transatlantic musical awakening. Again, very excited to read that. That sounds awesome. On to our Washington Regional Reporting Award. The award goes to Marilyn W. Thompson of ProPublica for her deeply reported, clearly written pieces on the pervasiveness of gerrymandering. Every 10 years, states redraw congressional districts, ideally to reflect the changes in population in the current census. Thompson found that regional fiefdoms dominate the process. In redistricting, the secretive threat to democracy, Thompson documented how Republicans and Democrats alike have taken gerrymandering to new levels, with the passage of secrecy laws, time-honored backroom dealings, and slow-moving court systems. The result is consolidated power with various parts of the country at expense for growing numbers of racial and ethnic voters. Accepting the award is Marilyn Thompson.
She just gave a much more coherent explanation of my work than I would ever be able to do, but I would really like to thank the Press Club for honoring this work. It was a tough slog looking at states around the country and the redistricting process that has been in play with both Republicans and Democrats. It was backroom dealing by both parties. So there's a lot more out there to be done on this subject. I'm not going to be the one to do it. But I would really like to thank my friends and family who showed up to cheer on an aging journalist. And it's great. And thank you very much for the recognition.
An honorable honorable mention for the Washington Regional Reporting Award is actually last year's winner. He wins a ton of stuff. Nick's great. Nick Gruby of the Honolulu Civil Beat for his regional reporting. I see he is not here tonight. I hope he's in Hawaii. I'm very jealous. Next, in our breaking news category, in the online print division, the winner is the team at the Wall Street Journal for the new banking crisis. When Silicon Valley Bank collapsed on March 10th of last year, it caught its depositors, regulators, and the technology industry, its primary customer, by surprise. Wall Street Journal readers quickly got up to speed thanks to the breadth and depth of the publication's breaking news coverage, which was gathered in part by reporters who were on the scene outside of bank headquarters. For deploying its already widespread reporting staff expertly on the day of the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and using all the tools at its disposal to tell its readers about the causes and wide-ranging implications as the failure was occurring, the Wall Street Journal is the winner of the Breaking News Award in print and online, and accepting the awards is Corey DeBrush.
Thank you. This is Ben Foldy. Also, thank you so much to the National Press Club, and thank you on behalf of the entire team that was a part of this. Rachel, Megan, Tellis, Ben, Andrew, and Justin. One of my favorite parts of working at the Wall Street Journal is what a collaborative place it is, and when big news breaks, everybody drops everything to contribute and to work together. And in this case, it was reporters from all over the country, from California to New York to DC, and they were working round the clock, missing out on lots of things in their families. In my case, my son's birthday, to break news on the bank's collapse and explain to readers what that meant for their everyday lives. So thank you again, Ben.
I think we should probably shout out a couple specific editors, and Marie Baudet and Charles Farrell, who really kind of headed up this coverage, and thanks to the National Press Club.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And then I think we have a photographer. Our winner for breaking news in the broadcast division is a team from National Public Radio for the first days of the Israel-Hamas war. Judges noted that NPR's commitment to providing perspectives from each side of the war shines through, with reporters unafraid to ask tough questions on air. The reporting captures a 360 view of the conflict, from the historical tensions between Israel and Hamas to Hezbollah's involvement. Daniel Estrin's experience, combined with insights from freelancers and the driver in Gaza, added depth and humanity to exceptional coverage. Accepting the awards is NPR's Larry Kaplow. Larry?
I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Daniel Estrin. I'm NPR's international correspondent based in the Middle East. On October 7th, producer Natan Odenheimer and I were disoriented in an Israeli hospital. We found a couple we both know personally who was grieving the loss of their daughter. And that day, millions of listeners were with us. And days later, Samantha Balaban, producer extraordinaire, traveled with me to the Gaza border. We found first responders still trying to make sense of the carnage. And we ran into a bomb shelter with them as rockets flied above, and millions of listeners were there with us. And our producer in Gaza, Anas Baba, and our correspondent, Aya Batrawi, told the story of a mother in Gaza who was found with her child on her chest. They were both dead. Their skin was fused together, and millions of listeners were there with them. I called NPR's driver in Gaza City who was agonizing over whether to evacuate his home city. And as we were on the phone talking with him, Samantha and I drove to the Tel Aviv airport where we met Israelis who were reliving their family's Holocaust trauma and fleeing the country. And millions of listeners were there with us. And about 10 days into the war, NPR producer Anas Baba was in Gaza driving through the dust of an airstrike. He was guided only by the red sirens of the ambulance in front of him. He found 2 girls without heads. He found a woman caked in debris. He said she was like a ghost. And millions of listeners were there with him. These are the radio and audio stories that you are recognizing tonight, and thank you so much to the National Press Club for that honor. Audio is a medium that demands that you stop and you listen. And it demands that you walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. It's an act of empathy to stop and listen. NPR has been committed to telling all aspects of this war relentlessly. Our team spans borders. We have journalists in Lebanon, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. We are Israelis, Palestinians, Americans, Jews, Christians, Muslims, but mostly we're all of the same tribe, which is journalists. Nuha, Abubakar, Ahmad, Shir, Itai, Alon, Jawad, Jane, Aya, Hadil, Kat. None of us can do the work alone, and we especially, all of us know, we rely on our local producers and fixers to help us tell the story. A big thanks to all of our editors, Larry, Mark, Dee Dee, Edith, Tara, James, so many more NPR producers and correspondents who have helped our listeners stop and listen to everyone affected by this war. I am especially proud to be accepting this award on behalf of our producer, our colleague, Anas Baba, who is still in Gaza. I wish he could be here with us today physically. He is one of the few Palestinian journalists in Gaza today working for an international or American outlet full-time. He is doing that 10 plus months later under the most impossible conditions, doing the vital job of witnessing a war that none of us international journalists are able to access independently, and I would like to call for free, independent access to Gaza. So thank you to all of our Palestinian colleagues in Gaza, to our Israeli colleagues in Israel, to everybody relentlessly covering this story. The war continues and our work continues. Thank you.
Daniel is a tough act to follow. I'm one of his editors. I just want to add one more thought, which, as we all know, this is a story that has riven families, communities, campuses, and, of course, newsrooms, as you all know. Our team on the ground in Gaza and Israel includes Jews, Palestinians. All have suffered and continue to suffer terribly in a most profound and personal way. But in this terrible time, my colleagues have treated one another with compassion and respect and professionalism. And as an editor, that has been truly humbling and inspiring. And I would like to thank all of you for recognizing their work. This way? Okay.
Dealer's choice. The honorable mention for the breaking news in the broadcast division is ABC World News Tonight with David Murr for earthquake in Turkey. And if we have someone here to accept the award, we do not. Moving on. Next is the Edwin M. Hood Award for Diplomatic Correspondence, which is named for Hood, a distinguished diplomatic correspondent for the Associated Press and a founding member of the National Press Club. The recipients are a team of reporters from the Wall Street Journal. After Russia's agents detained their colleague Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal's journalists undertook a courageous reporting effort, often at great danger, that exposed some of the deepest secrets of Vladimir Putin's regime. Defying public threats from the Kremlin, the Wall Street Journal revealed the existence of a Russian government unit devoted to hostage diplomacy, in which human lives are used for diplomatic leverage. The newspaper's journalists unearthed clear evidence of these tactics at work, including a memo in Putin's own handwriting. The Wall Street Journal showed that hostage diplomacy is a tactic used not only by Russia, but by America's adversaries around the world. Through their fearless journalism, the Wall Street Journal reporters greatly improved the public's understanding of international affairs. Their reporting serves as living proof that jailing journalists does not help hostile governments hide their secrets. It exposes them for all to see. Accepting the award is Joe Parkinson, who leads the Wall Street Journal's World Enterprise team, and his colleague, Drew Hinshaw. They both flew in from Europe to join us this evening. Guys?
Firstly, I'd like to thank the other news organizations who came before for bringing all their colleagues up so we can all get recognized, because just coming on your own is not as fun, let's be honest. It was the beginning of 2023 when myself and Drew were sat with a colleague who pitched us on what he was saying was a very underreported story, and that was the number of American citizens vanishing into Russian jails. That colleague, of course, is Evan Gershkovich, and little could we have known that just a few weeks later, Evan himself would be snatched by the Russian security services and spend 16 months, an agonizing 16 months, inside a Russian jail cell. Happily, Evan and of course Alsu are now home where they belong and free. And that's got to be worth a round of applause. But I think, as we're all acutely aware this evening, and we heard rendered so powerfully in Alsu's speech, the ordeal they experienced remains a global threat to newsrooms like all of ours and all of our colleagues who are in the field. This award, of course, has a special meaning to us on stage and all of us at the Wall Street Journal. We're so grateful. We have a lot of people to thank, but I would just start by saying we couldn't have done this without our editors who backed this particular team to investigate the story without fear or favor, and that meant sometimes going into very difficult territory and revealing potentially dangerous things about the institutions and the individuals who held our colleague. And that was not easy, but we were determined to do it, and we're grateful for that.
Thanks, Joe. We also wanted to say a special word of thanks to the other newsrooms in this room and elsewhere who helped draw public attention to the struggle of Evan and Alsu and other unlawfully detained Americans. We know that you understood this was a story not just about our colleague or Alsu or any one set of individuals, but a story about press freedom, and that this was something that could happen to any of our colleagues out there in the field. We also wanted to recognize the help of the NPC, who provided invaluable help. Bill McCarran, Executive Director of Press Freedom, and Presidents Elaine O'Reilly and Emily Wilkins. We recognize that our colleague here tonight, Paul Beckett, the fearless leader of the Journal's advocacy team, did a whole heck of a lot. And we thank him immensely. And we want to thank Evan's family for putting up with us and sharing, and Alsu's family, and for putting up with us and sharing their story and handling our questions. And to Evan himself, who is thankfully back on American soil and has a lot of extraordinary stories, no doubt, that you'll all hear at some point soon. Thank you very much.
love it. All the very powerful speeches. It's a good midpoint, keep the energy high. The honorable mention for the Edwin M. Hood Award for Diplomatic Correspondence goes to Martin Smith, Marcela Gavira for Rain Media for America and the Taliban. They're not with us here tonight, but they're with us in spirit. The next is the Joan M. Friedenberg Online Journalism Award, which recognizes the innovative use of online technology to tell a story. The award honors the memory of Joan, the founder of Online NewsHour, and the late wife of former Press Club president Jonathan Salant. The winners are Mike Baker, Malika Kurana, Riley Mellon, Natalie Renault, Bedel, I'm trying to get it right, I promise, guys. Bedel Sajay, Elena Chow, Ajali Singhva, and Charlie Smart for the New York Times, who worked to take on Inside the Deadly Maui Inferno hour by hour. Judges noted the use of digital tools as a storytelling device, putting the reader in the intensity of the moment. The story was the perfect example of excellence in online journalism. Accepting the award is Anjali Singhvi. Anjali?
Hi, I'm here with my colleagues Mike Baker, Bedel Sajay, Malika Kurana, and Riley Mellon. This was a really important story for us and a huge collaboration with 3 different desks in the newsroom. And we would like to thank the National Press Club, the New York Times, and our editors, Hayne Park, Courtney Brooks, and the rest of the team who couldn't be here today, Rebecca Lai, Charlie Smart, Elena Shao, and Natalie Renault. Thank you, really appreciate it.
The honorable mention for the Joan M. Friedenberg Online Journalism Award is KXAN for Outlaw, a half century of criminalizing LGBTQ Texans. The judges applauded the KXAN team for their in-depth reporting despite the difficulties that local media regularly faces when doing this sort of work. Our next award is the Sandy Hume Memorial Award for Excellence in Political Journalism. The award is named in memory of Sandy Hume, a reporter for The Hill who broke the story of the aborted 1997 coup against House Speaker Newt Gingrich. The winner is Nicholas Fandos of the New York Times for exposing political secrets. Judges noted Fandos' work is consistently well-written and deeply reported. He broke a lot of new ground, and his stories were filled with great details as he described the long-standing investigations into George Santos and Robert Menendez. Fandos' stories were filled with extensive records research and interviews, including those on former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and current Governor Kathy Hochul. Accepting the award is Nicholas.
Hi, I want to thank the Press Club for this great recognition. My editor, Dean Chang, who couldn't be here tonight and without whom these stories probably would not have happened. And also the New York Times, which invests in great local coverage of New York and gave me a lot of leeway to do these stories. When I moved to take this job a few years ago, a longtime Washington editor looked at me kind of enviously and said, "Oh, the corruption you're going to get to cover." And I naively thought, well, okay, that's true, but maybe a little outdated. It turns out I was very wrong. In one way or another, I think every one of these stories is about some kind of corruption. 2 of the people involved, George Santos and Bob Menendez, have been found guilty or pleaded guilty. But in other cases, prosecutors were involved in those stories, but there were other stories that I told and my colleagues told that I think only journalists can tell. And it's important for us to remember that often the kind of corruption of our political system happens in ways that are perfectly legal, but take advantage of people not paying attention. So anyway, I'm inspired by all the work you all do and grateful to have this recognition. Thanks.
We got like the best of the Capitol Hill press corps here tonight. Very exciting. The honorable mention for the Sandy Hume Memorial Award is Benjamin Orezquez of the Los Angeles Times for coverage of California's congressional delegation. He's not here tonight, is he? Because we can give him the thing. Okay, that's cool. The next award is the Joseph D. Ryle Award for Excellence in Writing on the Problems of Geriatrics. And the winner is Jenny Deem of the Denver Gazette and the Colorado Springs Gazette. Deem dug through state and federal databases, police records, court documents, and legislative testimony to uncover shocking stories of neglect and substandard care at assisted living facilities. Her year-long project, Unwatched: How Colorado Systemically Fails Its Most Vulnerable Elderly in Long-Term Care, documented not just the daily failures of an increasingly important industry, but the lack of effective oversight to hold it accountable. Dean poured through thousands of documents and gathered family accounts that fleshed out the systemic failures and humanized them with gut-wrenching details. One grieving family member, whose mother froze in the Colorado cold after staff failed to check on her for more than 12 hours and the facility was not fined, said, "The message we got was that the state does not really consider events like our mother's death a big deal." Deem's reporting has sparked renewed interest in reform among legislators, and accepting the award is Jenny.
Hi. She made me sound so smart. First of all, thank you very much. Thank you to the Press Club. It's such an honor to be here, especially among such incredible talent. And I want to thank my editors who are not here, Vince Beesdeck, who people from the Washington Post may remember, and Chris Osher, both of whom just let me fly. And I think that in this particular climate in journalism, particularly at smaller outlets like mine, that can be rare. And I will be forever grateful. I think it is so very, very important to remember that accountability journalism lives and breathes, not just at the big outlets, but at the small ones as well. And and this particular story, it broke my heart. And I think it has incredible relevance as the population ages, and these people who are put in these facilities by families who believe that they're going to be taken care of are disposed of, who die, and there is just simply in Colorado no accountability. But anyway, thank you so very much for this honor, and I appreciate it.
Great paper. The honorable mention goes to Hannah Gaberstein of PBS NewsHour for her series on the painful lack of end-of-life options for the unhoused, No Place to Live or Die. And is Hannah here this evening? Hannah? Our next award is the Ann Cottrell Free Award for Animal Reporting, which is named for a longtime Press Club member who wrote extensively about animals and their welfare. The winner for the print division is Chiara Eisner of National Public Radio for her coverage of horseshoe crabs. The judges selected this story because of its thoroughness, which detailed the little-known threats to horseshoe crabs as well as its impact, which led to changes. Horseshoe crab blood has been used for decades to test vaccines and medical devices for contamination. But reporter Chiara Eisner filed Freedom of Information Act requests in 5 states and obtained a secret recording that exposed how fishermen openly violate guidelines. Seabirds who feed on horseshoe crab eggs have also been adversely affected. Shortly after Eisner's stories were published, restrictions on the horseshoe crab harvest were added in South Carolina, and the U.S. Pharmacopoeia approved a synthetic alternative to the testing ingredient. Industry insiders have credited Eisner's reporting as a catalyst for these changes. And accepting the award is Chiara Eisner. Chiara?
You can. Thank you so much for this award. I'd like to thank NPR for investing in investigations and prioritizing long-form journalism, both on the radio and in print. This kind of reporting is expensive, it's time-consuming. This broadcast piece took up to 11 minutes of space on the radio, so literally time-consuming. It took years of reporting, it took money. To go there, I went with my producer, Mo. We went on Valentine's Day. She skipped Valentine's Day with her fiance. But this kind of investment does have impact. The investigation helped lead to a major regulatory change in the way the pharmaceutical industry tests its products nationwide. Now it will be much easier for companies to use synthetics, not just horseshoe crab-derived products. I'd also like to add what happens to animals is not frivolous, it's not niche, it affects all of us, and people care. This was NPR's 3rd most popular digital story all year, last year. So, thank you very much to editors Barry Hardiman, who's here, Robert Little, producers Monica Evstatieva, and Meg Anderson, who's not here today. The National Press Club, thank you so much. And the Free family, thank you for donating to this award. And thank you, listeners like you. Appreciate it.
The honorable mention for the Ann Cottrell Free Award for Animal Reporting in Print is Kevin Armstrong of the Star-Ledger's Death at the Racetrack. Judges wanted to spotlight Kevin's investigation of Monmouth Park, a mile-long horse racing track in New Jersey with an alarming equine mortality rate. His reporting will hopefully prevent this type of animal abuse from happening in the future. And I have here in my notes that Kevin is here this evening, if he would like to come up. Yes? All right. The winner for the broadcast division for the Ann Cottrell Free Award for Animal Reporting is Maya Trabolsi from KPBS for reporting on inhumane practices in dog breeding. Using court records, original interviews, and compelling tape contained from animal rescuers, Maya documents how one backyard breeder kept golden doodles in deplorable conditions on her Mexico property. Her entry is an excellent example of local reporting with national resonance for unscrupulous breeders across the country, for government agencies in charge of oversight of breeders across state lines, and for people who desire to become dog owners, especially of popular breeds, leads them to unwittingly support questionable breeding practices. Accepting the award is Maya Trabolsi. Maya?
It is a pleasure being here. Wow, being in DC.
Bees, rattlesnakes, foxes, pigs, laboratory beagles, and now designer golden doodles. Animal welfare issues have become my self-proclaimed beat at KPBS, especially investigatively. And I'm just so grateful that the Press Club has a category that honors this particular work. The beauty of journalism, as we all know, is that we can uncover unscrupulous practices happening in our community, and we can be the voice for the voiceless. And animals really need to have that kind of help. This particular story focused on a breeder who eluded law enforcement, moving from county to county, and then ending up in Mexico after she was deported from the United States, breeding doodles in horrifying conditions and then funneling them through the US-Mexico border to unwitting buyers who just wanted a dog. I work for KPBS Public Media in San Diego, and we have collectively, thank you, we have collectively produced really important, informative, investigative pieces, and it is a reminder of the importance of local reporting, a reminder that journalism really matters, especially to the most vulnerable among us. And I thank the Press Club, and I thank all of you and the judges for this incredible, prestigious award. Thank you very much.
The honorable mention for the Ann Cottrell Free Award for Animal Reporting and Broadcast is Scripps News. For the Scripps News investigates racing to death. Prompted by a spate of deaths among thoroughbreds and high-profile races, the Scripps investigative team uncovered a pattern of putting young horses through grueling sprints in order to raise their price at auction. And I believe we do have someone here from the Scripps team to receive the award. All right, excellent. Congrats to Amy and the whole team. Our next award is the Michael Dornheim Award, which recognizes excellence in coverage of aerospace, defense, and the airline industry. The award honors Michael Dornheim, a longtime reporter and editor for Aviation Week and Space Technology magazine, and we're grateful to have his brother Dan with us here this evening. Dan, can you give a wave or stand up real quick and we can just do... There you are. Thank you so much. The winner is Sydney Ember, Emily Steele, and Mike Baker of the New York Times for their story, Flight Risks. The story alerted readers to how much more frequent airline close calls happen than we have previously known. And accepting the award is Mike Baker of the New York Times National Desk. Mike?
Thank you so much. It's a great honor. Also, just a really inspiring event to hear from so many great journalists. I want to make clear that Sydney and Emily were really the drivers behind the work done here. As I've reflected a little bit on the work, I keep thinking back to the old adage that regulations are written in blood. The idea that a lot of our government policies for safety are written in response to disasters. And I thought what was really compelling about what Sydney and Emily were able to do here was to begin pushing a project that commands attention on things that are happening before the disaster. There's been a long recent history of good safety in the airline industry, of no major disasters. But I think their reporting really started to uncover and show and made you pay attention to this idea that our luck is soon going to run out. So I'm hopeful that there's going to be some movement towards more regulation policy here that can increase safety on everything from air traffic controllers that are strained right now to mental health of pilots, and those policies at the FAA that are now being looked at can be strengthened to make all of our lives safer and the flying public safer going forward, and that the regulations do not have to be written in blood. Thank you.
was tall. You're tall. The honorable mention for the Michael Dornheim Award is Bloomberg News for Ghost in the Machine, and I believe Ryan might be here to receive the award. All right. Up next is the Lee Walczak Award for Political Analysis, which is named after the late Lee Walczak, a Washington editor, bureau chief, and White House correspondent who worked for Bloomberg News and Businessweek. His wife, Maria Recco, is in the audience tonight and served on the panel of judges for the awards this evening. Maria, can you just stand for a minute so we can honor you? The winning entry is called Wars and Power. In a remarkable series of stories, Yaroslav Trofimov, I tried my best, thank you for your patience, the Wall Street Journal's chief foreign affairs correspondent, analyzed the geopolitical state of war and the prospect of peace, from Ukraine to Russia to China, how they are interconnected, and how the U.S. struggles to define its role. Accepting the award is Yaroslav Trofimov.
Well, I'd like to thank the National Press Club for this award. People usually call me Yarrow because it's universally very hard to pronounce my name, as you could see. The award is for political analysis, but these articles are born out of good old-fashioned reporting, traveling to the front lines and spending a lot of time in places like Ukraine, because I think the value of analysis, the ability to analyze events, comes from the ability to see things firsthand and to go beyond the conventional wisdom and to actually sort of have this almost sensory feeling of what's happening on the ground. And for that, I'm very thankful to the Wall Street Journal, a newspaper that I joined in the previous century, and that has been one of the world's greatest news organizations that are enabling people like me to go around the world, to travel, and to report on the front lines. I think we also owe a debt to many other colleagues who are risking their lives today. My own colleagues at the Journal who are in Ukraine, who are in the Middle East. It's a dangerous business. Just a few days ago, a hotel in Ukraine was bombed by the Russian military. One of the several hotels targeted because journalists are staying there. Reuters team member was killed, several other journalists were injured. And I think it's a reminder to all of us of the price of the cost of the information of the truth about what's really happening in the world. Thank you, everyone.
The honorable mention in the Lee Walczak Award is Tara Luna of the Los Angeles Times. The Angel Gringa Humor Award is named for the longtime Press Club member who specialized in writing humor for magazines and newspapers. And the winner is Seth Brown of the Berkshire Eagle for his column, The Pun Also Rises. Comedy, spoken or written, is notoriously hard to execute. From questions on AI to a column on March Badness, a tournament devoted to annoying problems, he made the judges laugh out loud. Brown did this by mining the very things that drive us batty in the postmodern age and keep us up to the wee hours worrying about the state of the universe, or at least the state of our own rattled mind. And I believe we have a video.
I'm so pleased to not be here tonight. This award is a tremendous honor for me, and there's really nowhere else I'd rather not be. I'd like to thank the National Press Club, which is almost the opposite of Fight Club. First rule of Press Club, you write and publish information about Press Club. I was in something similar growing up where I tried to do some writing but hated myself too much to get very far. That was D-Press Club. Thankfully, comedy saved me. Now, here I'm not, in a room full of very accomplished people I think of as Impress Club. You may even be too impressive. I mean, sure, I've been writing this column for 20 years since the late Glenn Drohan first hired me to start writing it for the late North Adams Transcript, but this is a room of august and respected journalists, whereas I've never even been spected once, let alone respected, and I'm only an august journalist till the end of the month. Frankly, when I saw my name on the press release alongside all the journalists from well-known nationally read publications, that old Sesame Street song began to play in my head. You know, one of these things is not like the other. No offense to my editor Kevin Moran at the Berkshire Eagle, one of the finest newspapers that you've never read. And yet, there are two reasons I believed I could be on a national stage. The first reason, and this will sadly not be relatable for most of you, but I'm not being paid for this speech, so I'm going to say it anyway, is that I grew up in Rhode Island. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Rhode Island is our nation's greatest city-state, and it is very small. The road signs say, "Welcome to Rhode Island, now leaving Rhode Island." Now, when I was in school, my siblings and I all ended up in national competitions by showing up to state competitions and then beating the other guy. One time, the other guy didn't even show up, and my sibling got to go straight to nationals just for signing up. True story. That gave me a certain amount of confidence, to the point where as a senior in high school, I wrote up a rhyming summary of some current events and sent it to the state paper, the Providence Journal. And they published it. It was, up to that point, the greatest moment of my life. After a few more published op-eds, it got even better when Projo editor Bob Whitcomb gave me my first column, and I knew then that I wanted to be a humor columnist for the rest of my life. Second reason I believed I could do this is the constant support I've received from my family and friends. Every time a friend told me they liked my column, it made me smile for those few seconds until I decided they were probably lying. But every time they shared one of my columns, it made me think, oh, they actually do like it, hooray. My parents have always encouraged me to follow my dream of being a writer, even during the years they were simultaneously encouraging me to consider following some other path that might pay a little bit more reliably. My Uncle Bruce, notorious cookie thief and also an award-winning longtime journalist, was always ready with his experience and wisdom. And my partner Debbie has perhaps the toughest job in the world, which is to live with the humor writer who is constantly asking, is this funny enough? Does this work? She always gives the best advice. And when I told her I was accepting this prestigious award, she said I should make an effort to look halfway decent. Advice which I think you'll agree I have followed to the letter. Indeed, we should all try to be halfway decent in our writing as well. Can't be fully decent because we have other priorities like providing accurate information or trying to make our audience laugh or the demands of capitalism which spur us to tell a roomful of newspaper editors that the rates to reprint or syndicate our humor column are surprisingly affordable. But decency and humanity are essential, especially when a lot of loud voices are all too eager to suggest that certain groups of people aren't really people, so it's fine to continuously harm them. I'm sure you've all heard Jonathan Foster's advice that if one person says it's raining and another person says it's dry, your job isn't just to quote them, but also to look out the window and find out which is true. I would add that part of what it means to report the truth is to illuminate how our fellow humans are affected by policies that don't treat them equally. And I realize it can be difficult to balance this decency with impartial reporting, but the way to do it is, oh God, I am out of time. Thanks again to the National Press Club. Congratulations to my fellow honorees, and good night.
Our final award this evening, and thank you for those of you who stuck with us, I know it's a school night, is the News Photography Award. The winner is Samar Abu El-Aouf. The New York Times, in her photos, Abu El-Aouf displays the horror of war in Gaza in different perspectives, from devastation of entire communities to personal and intimate loss. Abu El-Aouf endured difficult personal challenges, including destruction of her home, illness, and the death of multiple family members, while documenting these horrors in a professional manner. Accepting the award is New York Times staff editor on the photo desk, Meeko Taoman. Miko. That was a weird pronunciation we popped in there. Sorry about that, Miko. Miko.
Hello, good evening. Unfortunately, Samar was not able to join us here today, but I have some brief remarks from her. I am honored to receive this important award and to be recognized for my work in Gaza. Still, it is hard to celebrate given the ongoing tragedy in my homeland, where I hope to return soon. Samar is currently in Doha. What my work as a photojournalist has taught me the most is the humanity, to respect the most, is the humanity of all people, fortitude and patience. The camera has made me a strong woman. One of the biggest challenges for me covering this war was the killing of journalists. The conditions on the ground made it difficult to work. I had to sleep in the front seat of my car for 60 days. In the back seat, I stored what I could find: fuel, blankets, water, and food. Nowhere was safe. I had to always be prepared to relocate at a moment's notice, as well as having to deal with constant issues with internet and telecommunications access, which could be down for days at a time. On behalf of the New York Times, I am grateful to accept this National Press Club Award and recognition for Samar's work. Thank you.
Incredibly, incredibly powerful. And I think on that poignant note, that hits the end of our program, but before we leave, I would like to recognize the work of the dozens of judges for the Press Club Awards, led by our awards team co-chairs, Angela Greiling-Keene and Tara Koop. Ladies, if you can please stand for a second. I know you volunteered a ton of time, a ton of expertise to each entry. And for the many journalists who woke up on Saturday morning. And another thanks to our scholarship committee led by Aaron Looney and Caitlin Mullaney, who all worked with them and judges, on these scholarship applications. And of course, our amazing Press Club staff, chefs, servers, and everyone that worked together to put together this evening. Yes. Thank you to everyone who took part in the National Press Club Journalism Awards this year, and thank you all for attending this evening. Good night.